Hi everyone, it's Adam with Milo's Restoration, and today I've got a vintage dresser flip that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be painting this dresser kind of a smoke blue. It's really nothing too special. It would have been kind of a cheaper dresser and didn't really have too much going for it, so I decided I was just going to go ahead and paint it. And I started by cleaning everything with a bucket of clean rinsed water and some simple green degreaser. So, looking back on this flip, if I could have changed one thing, I would have sanded everything way more aggressively with a, like a 120 or a 180 pad, and gotten things really flat before I started priming, because I just decided to give everything a scuff sand. And this dresser had a lot of kind of like wonkiness and unlevel spots in it. So I ended up having to build the primer up a little bit higher than I would have liked to, and I could have solved that issue by just sanding flat with the first pass, but I just decided to scuff sand, and kind of caused me a little bit more waste of materials than I would have had to do otherwise. So this is some clear vinyl sealer that I got from Sherwin-Williams for free, and it's not my favorite material. Sherwin-Williams has another white primer that's a vinyl sealer as well, made by Sherwood, that would probably be a lot better. This one flashes off too quickly, but it is a vinyl sealer. So I'm just going to spray some of this as the beginning kind of base coat, and then you'll see me spray another coat of white vinyl sealer on top of it. And the white vinyl sealer, for whatever reason, just lays out a lot better, and it's just a lot easier to work with. So after I finished spraying that white uh, primer, I decided to put some automotive spackle on the areas that were, pretty badly damaged that I could see better now with the white primer. And I just let it sit for about 30 minutes and then I'll respray it. But I also decided to spray the drawers while I was waiting on that spackle to dry. So for the primer, I'm usually sanding around 400 grit. It's pretty soft, it sands really easily, nothing too difficult. And for the spackle, I usually sand it with around 320 or 220. It's a little bit tougher to sand. And for the like corners and crevices and areas like that where I feel like there's a higher chance of burning through the primer, I'll just take a pad and sand with my hand like I am here. So a common question is usually about spray equipment. And I can tell you that I do not have a big enough air compressor to really be running one of the HVLP guns. And the only way that I really get away with running it is that I'm just spraying primer. So, I really don't need to have everything look perfect and work perfectly. It just needs to be utilitarian enough to the point where I can actually put the material on the drawer and or whatever I'm spraying. So I'll just let my air compressor catch up, and if I have to take a break, I'll just take a break and, let it catch up. If you're spraying top coats with this and not using a big enough compressor, you would definitely run into some issues because with top coats, you can't really stop in the middle. You have to continuously spray. Otherwise, you get areas of dry spray and, bridging and things like that that are just really unattractive. And to avoid that, it's best to use probably at least a 60 or 80 gallon compressor. But I just didn't go that route. Whenever I got my shop set up here, I just decided I was going to use an airless or an HVLP turbine for top coats, and that's what I do now. So this is the new Sherwin-Williams Gallery series in the color Smoke, and it's a Benjamin Moore color. And I've got it in like a satin sheen, and I'm spraying it with a 308 tip. And I'm using a Graco airless, I think it's like a 390 cordless. So for sanding in between top coats, I use the Surf Prep Superfine, and I really just use two different types of pads. I use the flat pads that are for sanding flat areas, and then for like the curved surfaces and stuff like that, I use the thicker pads, and they're more like spongy, I guess you would say. And the reason for that is, obviously the foam pads contour to the surfaces of like the curved areas and stuff like that, but also because whenever you're sanding a flat surface, if you're using one of the spongier pads, what'll end up happening is you'll kind of burn through in the corners. And I just try to avoid that as best as I can, so I like using the flat pads. It would be easier just to use the sponge pad for everything, but I've just found that to occur every now and then. So for the final top coat, which I'm doing here, it's a little different. I'll usually use a tack rag or a tack cloth like I was there, and I'll wipe everything down. I'll also sweep and vacuum in the spray area just to make sure everything's clean. And I'll also turn off those two large extractors. Those extractors are nice because they pull out a bunch of the fumes, but the bad thing about them is that because they're so big, they move so much air and it's such a small surface area that it's a huge volume of air, and what ends up, I mean, it's a large velocity of air, excuse me, and what ends up happening is it pulls dust into your coating. So I usually just turn it off and use those four box fans that I have that you can't really see in this video, and it just keeps things a lot cleaner, and I don't have to worry about finding little specks of dust and stuff like that in the paint. And also I'll spray the floors with like a landscape sprayer, like a weed killer sprayer, and I'll just fill it up with water, and I'll just spray the floors with that before I do my final coat. It helps a lot. Also, for the final coat, I usually just wait for the bottom half of the piece to dry, and I'll tape off the bottom and just spray the top. You're almost always going to get some dry spray on the top, and it's going to be hard to eliminate no matter what you do. And I just found it's better just to wait and do it on its own. And this is just some hardware that I got from Lowe's, and kind of overpaid for it a little bit, honestly. I think if you're going to try to furniture flip and put new hardware on, it's almost always best to either order it off Amazon or find somewhere else to buy it, because Lowe's and Home Depot sell pretty expensive hardware. But it was what I had, and just decided to go with it. So there was one more thing that I did not show that I did do to this dresser, and that is that I put some like drawer glides on the top. That way the drawers don't sag down as much when you open them. But other than that, this thing is done. Got some pictures of it, got it listed on Facebook. If you like these kinds of videos, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.